Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Feels like it's been a while, huh?
Really appreciate to see all your faces. I hope you made good experiences with Zoom meetings in the meantime, and that you experienced that you were able to create this space on your own, with your own means, in your own way. It was the purpose to create this course, and looking forward to hear what your experiences are.
And maybe just before we jump in, to actually come to presence and be here with each other and see who we're with. We have participants from both of the different cohorts of the course, the one in April, May, and also this last one in June. So it's nice to see everyone. A meeting of the tribes, maybe.
Mm. And again, maybe just to use the moment and to take a breath, relax, allow yourself to arrive in this Zoom space together with all of us. Maybe just as a reminder that there's a difference between physical meetings and online meetings, because we have this initiation process, with physical meetings where we go to places, we move our body from one place to the other. So we know, now I'm leaving my private space, now I'm going to public, now we go to the meeting space. This is the business meeting room, this is the church, this is the meeting room, whatever it is. And just sitting down there, I'm aware that I'm there. And it's an initiation to the particular space, to the particular context. And it allows us to be there in a prepared way. This is different when we do what we do right now, because all of us, including Elizabeth and myself, we're just sitting at the same spot we have been sitting a minute ago, just the two of us on our own in our office. So we haven't moved our body anywhere, but then we opened Zoom and we saw all of you coming on, and this space opened up with more than 50 people now. And we have to make this inward transition to allow the space to open up for me and to allow myself to open up for this space. It has to be an inward movement. But if you do this inward movement, this space is there.
And that inward movement is coming to presence and being present in one's being here now. And that presence, that when we share it, creates this open space between us. When we each bring our attention and our intention towards this meeting in presence, because it's not a physical meeting, but we can touch each other in this way.
Yeah, and maybe just have a look through your screen, not on your screen. You can also go back and forth with the two screens that we have, because we are more people that fit on one screen, and just appreciate the fact that we are all real. We are all really real. Just appreciate the fact. I see Anna smiling. It's great to see you, Anna.
And we're also in very different places on this beautiful earth, and somehow here miraculously together, which is just amazing that we can meet. South Africa, Nuremberg, Stuttgart, the UK, the US, that we can meet in one place across the world together in presence.
Yeah. And with this, we also can appreciate the specific quality that particular global online meetings have, that in fact we don't have in any physical meetings. We are very aware of the earth itself, how she's holding us, or we are around the world. It's the space we're in is a world space, literally. It's not just in our heads. We are literally meeting in a world space, and that's something that it's a very powerful thing in itself, because it's a new human experience that we didn't have 5 years ago, to meet each other in a global setting. It's quite something, and just that can reach ourselves. Our cells can be touched by us being all over this beautiful globe, seeing each other, appreciating each other, and just, yeah, it's always good to give some time to that so that we can arrive here.
And what Thomas and I are doing is, as I'm sure you know and are noticing, is that we are calling attention to the aliveness of the space between us. And that is a large part of what the little course that we ran was about. It was about cultivating and working with this shared presence, this space that opens and touches us at a non-physical level, but touches us when we're together in Zoom, so that you can do the deep work that you do with each other, or that you do with other human beings in a Zoom context. Since in this time of social isolation, you can't rely on some of the techniques and capacities that you've developed in a face-to-face, body-to-body context. But now here's another way to connect and to be touched and to touch. So this is our opening of this space.
And just, our working hypothesis. Our working hypothesis, how we want to create this online aliveness, is that this meeting space between us has its own magnetism. As soon as we are aware of it, the magnetism becomes alive. So what we are doing here right now is just a pointing out so that we are aware of this space. As soon as the awareness of this space is a shared awareness, there's the own magnetism of our being together that is not done by anyone. It's done by our shared being together in this space, appreciating this space. And as you know, this is basically where we work from.
So the purpose of our follow-up call is to see how it's going with you. If you've made attempts and tried to bring this deeper dimension alive in the work that you're doing on Zoom, how that's worked, what questions it's brought up. And so in many ways, this is a session for you to ask questions, share experiences, and then together we can find out what's next. So if someone wants to share, just unmute yourself. And
again, we have 2 ways you can come in. You can just unmute yourself and come in, or if you prefer to raise your hand, so that you don't feel the pressure to just jump in, you also can raise your hand, and we will be a mixture of taking the people come in directly, the people raising their hand.
I can go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Jean, and I did a Zoom meeting using some of the techniques, and what I enjoyed about it was it took away some of the discomfort, if you will, of jumping into Zoom meetings. So it was showing up together, didn't ask anybody's title or their position, but just said, how to say in each other's name. It was just a different way of showing up and just entering into that space and realizing that we were together. And I did use those words. This is not virtual. This is a real, alive place that we are together in space at this time. And so I could see the shift in the conversation when we did that.
Great. And people felt it. You got response from the participants that it was different.
Yes. Several of them said they enjoyed it, and there was two that, because they were used to something different, they weren't quite there with it. But that was okay, because I was going to stay true to what I wanted to be in an alive, present space, is what I said.
Right.
Great, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Winona?
Yes, I wanted to bring something up that struck me when I watched the video recording from the last sessions. And there was one person who was so obviously not there, was kind of doing different things and going off and doing things on the computer. And I spent quite a lot of time being annoyed with that. And then I realized I've been doing that because it's so tempting. I'm on the computer. Oh, I just check my mail while somebody's talking, and I was never aware how disruptive and disrespectful that is, and does it shows so much. So I don't know if somebody does that in your sessions. Do you do anything, or do you just accept it? That's what it is. That's what I would like to know.
It depends on what the session is about. Sometimes when you're working with multiple screens, you can't see everyone at the same time. But usually we would call people to being present, to being fully here. And you're right. I mean, this is one of the things that we're trying to encourage that we shift, is that we actually are attentive and that we are here. Because when we're not, it creates a hole, or it creates a different quality in the space. And you see people eating, you see people, apparently someone did something quite quite surprising and didn't know that they were still on camera. We're so accustomed to just having our phones with us everywhere, or being on our computers and doing so many different things, that we don't realize that our presence really matters. And that in your meetings, in your the group work that you do, or to really invite people and ask people to stay present.
Basically, we are doing two things, or we try to do two things. We try to protect the space, and we try to be respectful and polite. And also to acknowledge that this is a collective learning process, because it's a weird mixture of spaces. You have your habits in your private space, and you think it's easy to forget that you are with other people, you're in your computer, and you're used to do things, and just check my email, do this, and you're listening, and you are not aware that you're doing something to other people. So a big part of what we are doing is also just reminding each other that there is a space that you have to be aware of, because it's a space that's not so obvious to see. You're not in a physical room, and there are a lot of things you just would not do sitting around in a circle. You would not basically just open up unless you're very rude, open up your computer and do your email while somebody else is talking in the circle. You would not do that. And just to remind each other, and also have patience that this is a collective learning process. And then it very much depends on the circumstances of the meeting, how strong you have to intervene, or how lightly you intervene.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an ongoing question to all of us.
Hello.
Hi, friend.
Hi, friend.
I would love to share a bit. I needed to miss our Saturday because of a board meeting, a Zoom board meeting. And we dedicated the first hour and a half to sharing who we are, because we were welcoming 3 new board members. Some of the thing, and I was leading, an image that I used that seemed to bring us together was, because it was a Catholic organization, I said, do you remember how the nuns taught us that Jesus in the Eucharist is real presence?
Mm.
Everybody nodded that they remembered. And I said, and so is this. This is real presence. We are present to each other.
Mm.
We also had someone much techier than I am was able to play a song for us. And I think we all found that that created incredible resonance for us. But just in case it didn't, based on something someone said in one of the breakout groups, I invited us to take 3 breaths together and I led them. So we really were breathing in tune with each other. One of the things people shared were what they were feeling. And more than halfway through the meeting, a woman shared how she was feeling bad because she didn't experience what others were describing. And so I felt like, without sounding like a new disciple, I channeled you two, welcoming, noting how we could hold what everyone had, that was part of our diversity, but our richness in being able to hold each other in whatever we were feeling. I was so grateful for how I had spent Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as I moved into Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, friend. That's lovely. That's really beautiful. Yeah. Great.
Marianne Rowe, you've raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. So I facilitate an online course about deep and profound connection with the world outside, with the trees and the ocean. And so the context of bringing the we space into that course was just in alignment with what we'd been exploring together and talking about being that way with each other online. And so I led using some of the practices that you had offered, including the leaning in slightly and leaning back. And folks got it like that, you know, they got it. And in fact, one of the comments was, oh, when I lean back, it's flat, you know, everybody looks flat. And that when I lean in with the intention and attention to the space in between, it becomes 3-dimensional, you know, that we're all here in all of our dimensions, and pointing to, you know, there's me, there's you, and there's this in the we in between. So it was absolutely lovely, and they want more.
Great. That's wonderful to hear.
Congratulations. That's
Perfect. Also, I mean, I'm sure maybe you have this experience. It's certainly ours that this we wants to happen. That this opening to the fact that we are not separate is something that seems to want to happen. And with the slightest, I mean, look, we did tiny little exercises, and many of you all of a sudden felt something in the space between, in the connection between, that is often fairly difficult to perceive in the bustle of life and in a meeting with everybody there and someone getting their coffee and whatever. Even in wonderful sessions, they can. We end up focusing on our physical being, or the cues that we're looking at from each other, and this presence we can overlook because it is always there. But it seems, and I mean, Thomas and I really see this in terms of the development of our humanity as a potential next step, because we're very individuated individuals. We are becoming more and more psychologically astute about our motivations and the dynamics between us. But this deeper sense of non-separation and the intelligence that comes from that is something that requires that capacity to be astute and aware, but it brings it to a new purpose in serving something that comes out of the collective. And we seem to need this. as a species.
I mean, what Elizabeth is saying is maybe quite out there, and it's always, if we would have more time, it would be a very interesting discussion how much this is a projection or a perception. But the way we experience this is really, it's not just that we want this to happen, but it wants to happen. And it is an interesting, if you go in, it's quite peculiar thought to what is this it that wants to happen, or even have this thought. So I don't want to go there, although I would like to go there if we would have time, because I find it very interesting. That's part of the magnetism, that something wants to happen here. At least that's how it seems to us.
Mm.
I agree. Just bringing the relationship into the relationship, it deepens what is shared and what emerges. Has been my experience.
Great, thanks, Marianne.
I have my hand raised, but if I can just jump right in after the lovely Marianne. So I had an experience. I lead processes for organizations around change and so forth. Not as the biggest part of my work, but as some of my work. And so I had a session with a client that I prepared for, and we got on the Zoom call, and they wanted something different because it was more in the moment of what they were actually needing and grappling with. And so it was post a board meeting and what had come out of that, and the need to make some decisions about moving forward. So put aside what I prepared, let's just go. And inviting people into that sense of the wholeness of the leadership group that was there, and the wholeness of the organization at the same time as being self-referencing, because there was a lot of reactivity about what had happened. So just playing with that we, me was really great. And the conversation was so rich. Whereas I had been concerned at the beginning of it that it was just going to be very defensive, and people had strong things to say, which was great. I actually think knowing they were being held by the collective of the leadership group and the organization, which is the not-for-profit, doing amazing work with homeless youth. It was really, I thought it was very rich, and I think a lot of that richness was ignited by that conversation around collective and self-reference and so forth. So to echo others, thank you very much for what you shared with us and gave us. It was an incredible gift, and I can see it already helping this particular group of people, and certainly helping me in my work. So thank you.
That's wonderful to hear, Shadi. Thank you so much for sharing that, because what we also want is, we're just opening this door, and then that you take it. It helps to practice, and to be in a community of like-minded people to help practice your one's sensitivity and capacity to evoke this, and at the same time your own innovations, your own trust of this and experimenting with it is what will really develop your own confidence and the strength of the we. And so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I did want to ask a question, and this might sound a little bit odd, but because it kind of doesn't make sense, but is there a way to practice it when you're on your own? I know that sounds weird, because of course it's about a group of people, so how do you practice on your own? But I'm just talking about, like, is there, because it's a presence, because it's a space between us and other people that's kind of in the ether, is there a way to practice it where we're not on a call even, like take it another step kind of out and practice that presence with your community that you're just sitting in, because with the community you live in, or I don't know, I'm just wondering if there's a way to continue to develop that skill, that muscle, and so on, even as a practice that you might do on your own?
One of the, because the we actually gets catalyzed between us, and a creativity and momentum start to occur. I think that's what you're maybe referring to as the richness of the conversation, that something it gets catalyzed. Certain part of it is only comes alive between us and is only available between us. But we can practice to be prepared. We can prepare ourselves. We find that meditation is really helpful, because it's about developing the capacity to let go of one's own mind agenda. And meditation practice is often a really good foundation for being able to stay present and be present in the moment, and also not be motivated by unconscious reactions or responses.
So meditation is definitely, from our point of view, a very powerful support for this. But to the question, can I practice this on my own? I would like to bring in a kind of maybe surprising example from a very different territory. Can we practice on our own without water to swim? And the surprising fact is we can. Mm-hmm. There is a kind of scientific findings that basically when you go inwardly through your emotions, you can train yourself, but in the end, this only can be a preparation. You can prepare yourself to swim, but to really swim, of course, you need water in the end. So there's an inner kind of, just be aware of these different modes of oneself, of inward and outward, but I can be only really in relationship with another when someone other is present. I can imagine one other, but the other I imagine is just an imagination of another. To really relate to another, I need the other. So in that sense, this part, we need the other, because otherwise this we space is just an imaginary space in myself. But to prepare myself to be aware of these movements, I think there's a lot one can do.
And actually what you just said, it's really important that it not become an imaginary space. Because when it becomes an imaginary space, we may have a really lovely, open relationship to the imaginary space that we create with our minds and with our sense of presence and so forth. But we can then be missing actually being present then when we're with others, because we go into our imagined space of, I'm now opening myself to all of you, and really it's something in my mind, and it's not, I'm here and I'm here with you. And so I think that like the exercise of letting go, the exercise of full presence, these are things that one can do, and then be open to find out what happens then when we're together.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question that relates to this? I've done a course where we would get an email message every morning, and then we would meditate in a group at the same time, and on the same topic that we were emailed. And although I was on my own, I really had a very strong sense of we during this course. We did it for 40 days. So I was on my own, but I couldn't see the others. I knew they were also involved. So I'm a bit puzzled about what you say. I'm puzzled because was that then an imaginary space, or was it real we? Do you
understand? Just very directly, I don't know if we talked about this when we did the course. If the internet would go down right now, bang, in this second, will you still have a relationship with me? I think you would.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I would. So the technology is something that's supporting, but the real relationship is that I acknowledge you as you, independent if I see you via my screen right now. Maybe it will be more difficult, it will fade away, but you are real and I can relate to you.
Yeah.
Real, even if I don't see you right now. It's more difficult. Unless you're very psychic, then maybe it's easy. But for the rest of us, it helps to be supported by technology. But the real relationship that we have is not via the internet. It's supported by the internet.
Yes.
It's acknowledging that Renata, that you are, and I relate to you. And as it was with Shadid before, there's a space opening up between us that I'm not able to access without you. I guess it's a similar thing on the other side. Mm-hmm. And to appreciate this, that we need the other to access this space of mutual otherness and wholeness at the same time, is independent. And I very much can relate to what you're saying with this meditative space. It will be more difficult, but it's possible.
And when you're working purely in consciousness, which is what you were doing in meditation and consciousness, there's a difference between dialoguing. You know, obviously you can't dialogue alone.
No,
maybe we do that all the time, but with
inner dialogue.
Right. The many voices in my head. We create meditation spaces online all the time, and we're not physically in the same place. We also, for a long time, did meditation on the phone together. The phone line was open and we were there. But when we share an intention to share a certain space together, there is something created in consciousness.
Yep.
And that is real. So you were working with an intersubjective space based on pure consciousness and intention, and the seed of the text that you were working. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
As we talk about presence, something that's been on my mind is showing up, and it has to do with the face and the connecting to a face and the contribution that makes to presence. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting what has triggered it, and where I am in Oregon in the States, they recently are starting the opening up thing, but everyone is required to wear a mask. I've not been wearing a mask because I have extreme value for being able to read faces, because for most of my life I haven't had that. And now when people are walking around with masks, I was shopping in places where people chose not to wear the mask, so I could feel the presence and connection of the faces. Mm. And now I'm avoiding going grocery shopping or connecting, because to be in a place where there are no faces that can be seen, something peculiar happens. It's like I'm forced to imagine who people are if I want to connect to these mysterious people with masks as I walk around the store. It gives extreme value to this platform of visual connection, like on Zoom, because it isn't natural to not have faces around us. Mm. And it creates an isolation because there's so much information that comes through a face. So not saying a word that is presence.
I'm finding it's really interesting with this mask on the lower part of the face. Yes. I'm seeing so many more people make really profound eye contact in grocery stores and in on the street, and because we want to communicate, we want to be in connection. So as human beings, so what I've seen is so many more intimate eye contact that I found very precious and very touching. Should we go to Maureen? Maureen, thank you, Nancy Ann. Because we
Yes,
Just realized we are already far into our hour here. But Maureen, please.
yes. I feel like Thomas Edison that knew at least 100 ways not to make a light bulb. And I have learned at least 100 ways how not to do and manage interpreting on Zoom in the last 2 weeks. So it's been a lot of frustration, but one day it will happen. But as an interpreter, when they put me on the Zoom as the interpreter, different times, like nobody could hear me, or only everybody could hear me, and I only wanted one language group to hear me, and different things like that. And as an interpreter, should I have my video off because I am supposed to be heard and not seen? Or should I have my video on so that the people listening to me, if the sound is not good, can see my lips? If anybody in the group has experience, please send me your information on how to do interpreting in the rooms, because it feels like the translation equipment doesn't work when you go to a room. So do you have to do consecutive instead of simultaneous translating in the rooms? And should I have a face in the room and not in the main group?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know how to answer your question. I'm not sure how to answer your question, Maureen, because yeah, I think it depends. That's a very specific job or work. But I do know on Zoom, if two people are speaking at the same time, one gets canceled out. So that you should just know that that's how the technology works. So that if the other person is speaking that you're translating, and you're trying to speak at the same time, one of you will not be heard, or you'll hear just bits of both. So it's actually a technical issue, and something that perhaps it would make sense to be in touch with Zoom about itself, because it's not an issue around consciousness or how to create a space together in Zoom. It's much more a technical question. Oh.
Yes, the main question was in the Zoom in the main room, when you're on the technology, if you have the translation feature going, the person clicks on the language they want. So somebody can be talking, and if they're clicked on a different language, they just hear that language.
Okay.
But in a small breakout room, what I'm saying is, I wait for the person to finish, and then I repeat it in the other language, and everybody waits, and so everybody hears everything twice.
No,
should my face be present in that room, or should I not have my face present?
As you suggested, Maureen, if there's some expertise in this group of 50 here, why don't you give your email address in the chat room so that somebody could write to you? And if there's some expertise to this very specific question, I would be happy if somebody can help you with this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Kaufman?
Yes. Oh, I'm really very excited about all of this, and I think my biggest takeaway was this whole idea that this is not virtual, and I kind of use that expression too. And you know, the first thing I noticed that when I went into other groups or meetings, and if the facilitators started out by kind of this, well, we wish we could do it in person and we have to make do, and this kind of lead in, how that really took away from the whole program. Kind of it set it up as a, you know, kind of a second class thing, right, to begin with. So just noticing that, yeah, I was, because you had drawn our attention to how, you know, this is not virtual, it's just different.
Mhm.
So we led a grief ritual program, a short 2-hour program, just 2 nights ago. And I think it worked really well. We've only had 2 feedback responses yet because it just happened. And in these programs, you know, the sense of community is really important, because that's what helps people to be able to maybe express and touch into their grief if there is somebody else there listening. And I think it worked. And I think part of it was just this attitude that, you know, creating the space. I mean, we did some guided movement. We actually did singing together in the way that we pre-recorded simple songs, just us facilitators and some friends. We had somebody who could put all the tracks together, so it sounded like a small group singing. We had everybody turn off their microphones, and we all sang with the recording, and I think it really worked.
I see.
Great.
Yeah, and you know, so what happened, tech issues, our Zoom got accidentally shut down right in the middle.
Oh,
People were just coming back of breakout groups and everything was gone. And everybody came back in really quickly, and we continued as if nothing has happened. And I think that's, you know, the space that you were talking about that we created, and it didn't go away just because Zoom shut down.
Exactly.
Great.
It's cool.
Great.
It's very cool.
Yeah. One question I have, you know, so this is a, you know, we asked people to be in a private space because people are sharing, and I noticed there was, in one person's room, there was somebody else kind of in the background. I think they were trying to stay off camera, but sometimes they're a little bit wandering in. And I didn't quite know, I didn't call it out, but I'm wondering what you would do when that happens, when there is, you know, if it was real life, somebody wanders in the room, I would politely ask them to leave. But what do you do when that happens online?
I guess it depends on your judgment how much it endangers the space and the intimate trust that you want to create. And depending on the judgment, there is a line. If the line is crossed, one would make the call. And of course, one has to be very polite in that. But also, in an emergency situation, it happened to me because people are sometimes not respectful. You also can mute people.
I mean, they weren't speaking. They were just, you could see that there was somebody kind of listening in, or maybe participating secretly. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, same thing. If you feel it's really disturbing, because if somebody's just kind of spying on something, which is basically what it is, because he or she is visible, but it's spy on it, and it creates something. In some situations, it doesn't really matter. I'm sure that it happens all the time, that people are kind of look and not visit. So many situations, it just doesn't matter. But the context you're describing, which seems to be very personal, very private, it does. And maybe it's important to also greater respect for that.
And it might be part of the ground rules that you want to set up before the meeting.
That just occurred to me that, yes, that would be a good thing, because then it would be clear.
Yeah, and then if something happens or someone is around, you could say, you know, just repeat the ground rule, and that would make it.
Very good, very good. I'm going to write that down right now so we can add that to our agreements.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. And I'm just really grateful for what you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, we have.
I was just going to say I have a follow-up to that, but if you need to ask someone first, that's fine.
I was just going to say, oh, Julie, is that you coming in?
Yeah, I also put my hand up.
Because you're next. I just want to bring that we have 7 hands and
50 minutes.
and 15 minutes. So to be aware of your cohort, your friends here, and they're wanting to speak also. So okay, Julie.
Okay, I'll be brief. Yeah, just to follow up that related to, I guess, ground rules, and it also connects to the earlier question about people doing distracting things. I just want to invite people to be aware that people with disabilities and different cognitive ways of being in the world have different needs. And as me, as someone who has chronic pain and constantly needs to be moving and has screen sensitivity, and sometimes I need to close my eyes, that let's just assume the best, you know, like let's assume that people are participating in the way they can, and that sometimes certain ground rules can mean a space is not accessible to someone, and it's like a tricky thing to find out. And so yeah, I just want to bring that into the awareness that just because someone's working on their computer, it doesn't mean that they're not being as present as they're able to be. And maybe someone's eating because they have blood sugar issues. There's a whole multitude of reasons. Yeah, but like at the same time, I totally understand that it can be distracting. And so maybe that's my question, is that like, as me as a disabled person who constantly needs to move, is it better for me knowing that that could be distracting to keep my camera off and not being able to fully participate? Or should I do what I've been doing today, which is I've just been like rocking around in my chair, still on camera? Yeah, so like what's your advice for people who, or maybe people who have kids in the background and they have to take care of their kids while they're on Zoom? Like for people who know they're going to possibly not be able to participate in the normative way, what's your advice? Camera off or say something, or yeah.
I think it depends on the context, Julie. If you're, you know, if you're in a session where people are sharing things that are very intimate, and it would be perceived as that you're not paying attention, you would want people to know that that's not the case, that you're actually fully present, but that you need to move. The chat is also a really helpful thing that doesn't exist in real live meetings. Like I can, if I were in a context with you and I was wondering about your behavior and thinking maybe it's distracting, I could, as the facilitator, write you a personal chat and say, you know, Julie, are you okay? You know, you seem to be moving a lot, or something like that. And it can be taken care of that way. But I think I appreciate your bringing our awareness and sensitivity to these issues, because it's important in creating these groups to invite people to share what they're capable of and what works for them. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Karen.
Hello. I wanted to give you some feedback and I have a question. So first of all, I must tell you, I have been practicing this everywhere and it is just spectacular. I can feel the difference in the room. And I actually prepped before. I sent an email. I have a group that's been running for a few weeks now, and we were in the middle of it. And I sent them kind of logistics in the middle to say, next time we get together, think about your space is going to be part of the we space. What are you doing around? Like all the things that we've done to kind of prep people to come in. So I invited them to do that. And then in it, really watched my language. I kind of practiced everything you gave us. And it felt so radically different. It was so wonderful. And there's a ceremony that I hold when there's a full moon. And a few months ago, I did one. And I remember at the end of it how separate I felt, even though it was holding everyone. And then when I did it last week, it was like everyone was in the room with me. I can't tell you how black and white different it was. It was so spectacular. So yes, I want to keep it short, but I practiced everything. I was a good student and it really worked. And I'm so grateful. Thank you. It's made it so exciting online. And getting such great feedback from them, because they can feel that something's different too. And it's interesting how what I've done is when we meditate at the beginning or call sacred space, when I get everyone to connect with their hearts, I get them to connect with themselves, and then I get them to come to the camera and connect with everyone from the heart. I built it in to the holding the space. And the second time we got together, they did it automatically. I didn't even have to ask them. It was like there was something, they just absorbed something that really worked for them, I think. That's my judgment. And they just loved it. It just unfolded. I didn't even have to ask. It was, so yeah, my heart feels so full in my meetings. So thank you. I've really had such great results. And then the question, the thing that I've noticed, which is maybe about my journey, and you'll give that back to me if it is, but the one thing I've noticed is that, you showed us last time when we're in a group that if we don't want to see ourselves, that we can, I can't remember what I think it's called hide self-view. You can, yeah. So I've been trying that, and it feels weird that I'm not seeing myself on the screen with everybody. It's the strangest subtlety of where am I? And when the camera is gone, who am I? And I don't know if it's a spiritual thing, like who am I? And, what is my presence in the world? But I've really noticed how weird I feel. And at the same time, I don't want to see myself. So I've been playing with this. Where am I on the screen? What does the camera mean? What does it mean when I'm in space with them? Am I present with myself? Am I just with them and not with me? It's brought up very interesting questions.
Cool.
I don't know if you have any kind of response to that, but I'm quite surprised.
Sounds like a great inquiry, and I don't think there's an answer to it, but I think it's a great inquiry.
And I can relate to it exactly how you're describing it. It's interesting. It's an interesting experience. Also to be aware of the difference. I mean, it's beyond the context of this conversation, but it's a very inquiry about being with someone and being with someone with a mirror image of myself on the screen, being with someone. It's a very different relationship that one creates, and there's a lot. One could say a lot about it. I don't want to go into it, but it opens up a lot.
No, it sits on this line of not falling into the egoic, like I want to be seen, and the I am a spirit and I am in the we consciousness of who we are. It doesn't matter. My ego doesn't need to be here, but my ego's going, you can't be seen, So anyway, so thank you. Yeah, it's been a really beautiful experience. I'm really, it feels like there's a richness, and yeah, thank you.
So exciting to hear.
Great. Narita, great to see you.
Hola, great to see you. I really, really appreciate your work. I was wondering when we talk about preparation, I love that topic because you talk about, Elizabeth talked about meditation, and Thomas was talking about the relationship. So in preparation, I should meditate, and also I should set my intention and build up my presence. But I was wondering if I could practice also the relationship I have with myself, because, and I wanted to ask Thomas, because he's talking about the we space is about how to relate with each other. I would think that the better relationship I have with myself, the better it would be in the group. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I don't know if we talked in our course about this, but there are different we spaces. And there is a we space where one has a strong relationship to oneself. And there is a we space where one can hold this we space and go beyond this in a togetherness without losing oneself. We call this a a pre-individuated and a trans-individual space. It's a complicated wording, but basically what do you mean? It's not losing yourself, it's with yourself and with a strong relationship of yourself, being able to go beyond yourself into this we space. Yeah. And that's something where you need yourself, and you need yourself strongly. And then it needs extra strength to also let go of oneself.
Oneself. And so what I was thinking is that part of the preparation or the things that one can do when one is by yourself, regarding the question, I forgot her name, but can you practice? Is it to practice the kindness to yourself, to practice all the things that you might do in the group or that we learn here to yourself too, to hold yourself. That makes sense. I don't know. It's regarding what you say, holding myself, holding the group.
Yes.
Well, actually, there's a way in which the we holds me first.
Oh.
And the whole group.
With the we holds me. Wow. I did. Oh, it chills me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And we have just 3 minutes left. So actually what we would like to do, we hope to have a bit of a conversation about next steps. Next steps and what you would like to have next, or what would serve you, or what would be helpful. There's a group in there are different groups that look like they want to form. I saw that on the chat by looking out the side of my eye. Do you want an input and supervision in those groups? Would you like a further course in working in dialogue in this way? There are a lot of questions. We have programs that are designed to cultivate your capacity to open and hold a we. And that's our Global Higher We program. And if you are working in a group of people and you want that group that you're working with to work more and more with a we have a program for groups that we work with where we consult to the group and help the group practice the we. So those are programs that we already have going, that you're all very welcome to join and participate in. And maybe we can go a little bit over time, but not too much. And yes, you can sign up for the Global Higher We. It's in the email that I sent before, and I will send it again this week. But also it would be great if a group of you from here wanted to be part of that program. You could get the input from us and practice together, because the point of that program is for you to develop autonomy, and to really develop an autonomous capacity to work this space. That information will be coming again soon. And we also have something that we just decided a couple of weeks ago. We do an annual retreat that focuses on meditation. And
in fact, inspired by the courses that we gave, we had an idea how we can combine what we did in the last years in a different way.
Yeah, so we do a meditation dialogue retreat, which is about preparing oneself for to be able to be in this we space, and then practicing it through conversation, through deep dialogue. And it will be on site in Assisi, Italy, and we've now created it as a virtual retreat where we will take you with us to Assisi, and we will take you with us into the hills of Umbria, and create a context for meditation and dialogue in this context.
So
it's again free, asking for a donation, because we're also hoping to support the small retreat house in Italy that nearly got wiped out because of the coronavirus.
We called the program a global pilgrimage, and it's an experiment because we found also that our experience of being together and holding a global field together being worth, because we have been to Assisi. It's one of the powerful places
incredible.
Of this world. And have a group of people there and have a meditation field around the world with these people and being connected via video and the internet with Assisi and meditate together from different places, from Asia and the US and Europe, with a group of people there in Assisi and in Umbria, to have a shared practice. We are just in the process of developing the program, how we can do this with the group there and the group online. So it is an experiment. We just came up with this idea because we thought this is something in a global age, also to have global pilgrimages in a time where people cannot and also should not travel too much, but still appreciate the sacred places of the world. This is maybe something powerful we can do together. So if you feel inspired to, or if you know someone who feels inspired to, that's one of the next things we are in preparation right now. As you hear, we are quite excited about it.
Yeah. And Sister Magdalena, we hope that Sister Magdalena is a Franciscan sister. And the Assisi and the work of Saint Francis. Saint Francis is one of the first environmentalists, you could say. So we invite you to check out the program. I'll send you that information either today or tomorrow. I think you'll find it a lot of fun, as well as a wonderful way to spend a little time in depth and companionship,
Yeah.
and to deepen your capacity to do this work.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that for us ourselves, doing this kind of retreats is also a preparation to be able to do this work.
Yeah, that's why we do them every year.
It allows us to be a little more free of ourselves when we do this, and be more connected to something deeper and more relevant than ourselves in doing this. And that's part of, there are many ways how to do this. That's one way how we do this, to be connected to something deeper.
And we'd love to have you all involved and also just be in touch about, like, what help you need, or we're here, and maybe we can have another group call, an open call in the fall, because we're getting into summer months and so forth. Maybe we could have one in September, and see where we can go from there. Does that sound okay? Okay. All right.
Great.
All right.
One thing I just want to mention again, of course, we do this for free. We will do the retreat for free. Of course, we also do this session that we're doing right now for free, and we want it to be free. So please feel invited, and we very much appreciate that you're here. If you want to support our work, and if you have the means to support our work and make it possible to do this, because we are, of course, dependent on people who can afford this, to support this work, we very much appreciate that too.
Yeah. So thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And sorry that I would have loved to go on, but I also want to respect the time that we had agreed on, so that people feel pressured.
Thank you for everything.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Have a great one.
Bye, everyone.
Well, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so
much.
Too.
All
Thank you.
and all of us. Thank us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Big love to everybody.
Yeah, you take care.
If you want to hang out in this for more, the room will stay open.
You're awesome.
And you feel free to hang out here. We will go off, but if you have more time, please do so. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye, everyone. That was really great.
It was.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.